In this video, we'll be looking at the concept of linked genes and particularly looking at sex-linked genes. So again, genes are located on chromosomes, which you should know by now. And there are two types of chromosomes. There are autosomes and there are sex chromosomes. Autosomes are all the other ones, 1 through 22, if you just look here on this picture. And sex chromosomes are these two chromosomes here, either the XX or XY chromosomes for males or XX chromosomes for females, as you can see here. And chromosomes are inherited from mom and dad. Mom gives you one, dad gives you two, or dad gives you the other one, and this pair is called a homologous pair. So when we're talking about linked genes, we are talking about genes that are located on the same chromosome. Really simple. Gene B and gene CN here are linked because they are on the same chromosome. If you look back here, they could both be on chromosome 1, whereas gene 50, I'll just name one, is located on chromosome 2. It is not linked to those genes that are located on chromosome 1. And so all of these genes are located on the same chromosome. Therefore, they are considered linked. Now, this business here about a linkage map has to do with crossover frequency. And so what you can do is you can plug all that information into a computer. Like we know that B and CN cross over 9% of the time, and CN and VG cross over 9.5% of the time, whereas B and VG cross over 17% of the time. And so then we can say, well, B and VG cross over more often, therefore there's probably a bigger gap between them. Crossing over is more likely to happen between here and here than it is between here and here. It's kind of like, imagine if I had a dumpster in the back of my room and a tiny little trash can, and I said throw a tennis ball in the dumpster. You would hit the dumpster more often than you would hit the tiny little trash can. This is the tiny trash can, very small percentage. The dumpster is the bigger percentage. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how they are able to draw maps of chromosomes, except for they just use computers to put in all those numbers. And this has to do with, this is just another gene map showing you the same sort of thing, that they're able to map genes. All right. Some genes are located on sex chromosomes, and these are called sex-linked genes. And there is some particular issues with sex-linked genes because some genes are located on the X chromosome, in which specifically talking about humans, all humans have an X chromosome. Some humans have 2, some have 1. Genes necessary for life are located on the X chromosome. So there's no such thing as a living person that doesn't have an X chromosome. However, there are individuals that don't have Y chromosomes. They're called females. And so the Y chromosome only has genes on it that are necessary for maleness, is the best way to say that. There is a gene, go back here, on the Y chromosome called the SRY gene. And the SRY gene becomes active during development, not at the beginning, but at some point during the development in utero. And so that is when maleness turns on in an organism. And so there is a certain stage in which all developing organisms are the same. And then after that stage, one becomes male and the other female. Their cellular composition isn't any different. That person had a Y chromosome from the very first cell. It's just that those characteristics that make that person distinctly male did not turn on until later in development. So a couple other things can happen from this. Well, let me go back to this picture. If a gene is located on the X chromosome, or let's say that a disorder is located on the X chromosome, then a male is if it's a recessive disorder, a male is more likely to demonstrate that or express that disorder because he only needs one recessive allele in order to show it. Whereas a female, if they have one recessive, the other one can be a dominant. And so then they can show the normal condition just by having one as the dominant. But for a male, they either have a recessive or a dominant. They don't have two. And so for diseases like colorblindness, it is called an X-linked recessive trait because it is linked on the X chromosome and it is a recessive condition. And so in this particular pedigree, the male, the father here, has colorblindness. The mom doesn't. But they have a daughter that's a carrier for it. Well, how did she become a carrier for it? Well, she gets one X from dad, one X from mom. And the X that she gets from dad is always going to have colorblindness on it every single time. The mother, well, the mother may or may not have it. She doesn't have any children that are colorblind. And so she probably can't pass that gene on, you know. The colorblindness, a son does not get colorblindness from their dad because they get a Y chromosome from their dad. They get their X chromosome from their mother. But see, look here. This person, this daughter here, is a carrier for colorblindness because her dad was colorblind. And so now there's a chance that 50% of the male children in her household will have colorblindness because she is able to pass on that colorblind X chromosome. And you see the same thing happening here. In this family, this person is a carrier and the dad is colorblind. And so they get this female here can be colorblind if mom gives an X and dad gives an X that are colorblind. Another famous example of this is hemophilia. Hemophilia is an X-linked recessive disease as well. And one very famous family had this. It was basically a whole dynasty of European monarchs had this, and it was not good for the length of that dynasty. But again, hemophilia is a bleeding disorder in which you don't have blood clotting. And so same sort of thing, though. It's just inherited as a recessive X-linked. And so females need both of those alleles in order to have it, but they only need one of them to pass it to their sons. And so this kind of breaks some of Mendel's basic laws because there's only one allele needed with that if it's a recessive disorder for males, but for the most part, still follows those same sort of principles.